Hello everyone, I am Sammy, your devoted manga otaku, and welcome to my manga space. So today, I will be discussing all the manga that I read in the month of April, but before I get into the details, I recently gained a bunch of subscribers, and I just wanted to say hello. It's nice to meet you. My channel is dedicated to all things manga, and some content you can expect on my channel in the next upcoming months includes a bookshelf building and organizing video, a Viz Manga taste test series video, a $500 online manga shop with me spree, and of course, more haul and unboxing videos. I appreciate your subscription, your support, and your feedback. And with that, I invite you to grab a coffee or other beverage of your choice, and let's talk manga. So I'm going to do things a little differently this time around. I'm going to start with the manga I enjoyed the least this month, and then I'm going to work my way up to the manga I enjoyed the most. And I will be attaching star ratings to the manga as well. Now, I apologize in advance if this video is on the longer side, because I read 30 volumes of manga this month. I did add timestamps throughout this video, so feel free to jump around. The first manga I'll mention that was a complete flop was volumes 1 through 4 of the completed shoujo manga series, Cherry Juice by Haruka Fukushima. This is a taboo romance school life series published by Tokyo Pop and is rated 13+. This series is part of my reread project where I'm rereading my old manga, and the reason that I picked this to read was because I recently bought Chocolate Mint, which is a step-sibling romance as well, and buying that put me in the mood to read some forbidden love. When this manga first came out, I was about 14 or 15 years old, and I remember being obsessed with it to the point of rereading it multiple times. And now that I'm older, my tastes in manga have changed, but I didn't realize just how much I would dislike this. So this manga follows Minami and Otomi, who, when they first became step-siblings, were constantly fighting, but fast forward 5 years and they finally built a somewhat peaceful relationship. However, after Minami's best friend, Amane, confesses his love to Otomi, the two begin to date, and Minami is forced to recognize that he has always thought of Otomi as more than just his sister. In the beginning of the series, the manga focuses on Minami trying to deal and cope with his one-sided feelings for his stepsister, but as the story evolves, the main focus shifts to Otomi and how she becomes conscious of her own feelings. If I'm being totally honest, I DNF'd this series after 2 volumes because I just could not get into it. The characters in this series are frustratingly bratty and immature, and there is no real conflict in the story, making it kind of random and boring. Otomi and Minami's romance isn't even that much of an issue because their immediate family is constantly hinting that they would be supportive of a relationship between them. Which raises the question, why are Minami and Otomi fighting so hard against their feelings for each other? There was very little character development for most, if not all, the characters in the story, and it's held together by an assortment of haphazard and arbitrary behavior. For example, the supporting characters keep pushing Otomi to think about how she feels about her brother, even though there's zero behavior signaling that she likes Minami romantically. The supporting characters were unmemorable, except for Minami and Otomi's grandmother, who was a cute, funny old lady that was openly supportive of a relationship between them. I really hated Otomi's boyfriend Amane, the rival love interest. He was extremely possessive of Otomi, and he acted childish and rude when he was talking to her. The art in this series was okay, but it was rough sometimes, and the hands and feet are drawn a little strange at times as well. Because I DNF'd the series, I'm giving it an automatic 1 star. However, I'm not going to unhaul it just yet. I do have a lot of amazing memories around Fukushima sensei's works. They also wrote Instant Teen Just Add Nuts, which is another manga I adored as a teenager. Unfortunately, I don't own that one though, and after this experience, I don't think I'm going to invest in it. Maybe I'll unhaul this one day, but nostalgia won't let me get rid of this series right now. The next manga I read in April is completed at 2 volumes, and that's the Josei series SP Baby by Maki and Enjoji. This is a short romantic comedy. It's published by Viz Media and it's rated 16+. In my manga haul video for April, I gave a synopsis for this, but there are some things I got wrong. I was under the impression that the main character, Tamaki, was a rookie police officer looking for work. I cannot for the life of me remember where I saw that, but that is not the case. Tamaki is just your average 25-year-old who never went to college and doesn't have any credentials, so it's hard for her to find work. She needs to find a good job because after her parents died, it became her responsibility to put her brother through college. Tamaki misses a job interview because she misreads a situation and saves the president's nephew. She's an act first, think later type of person. Impressed with her quick reflexes and her legs, the president's nephew, Kagetora, hope I pronounced that correctly, Kagetora pursues hiring Tamaki as his full-time personal bodyguard. However, he may have hired Tamaki for other reasons. This series wasn't great, and as more time passes, I dislike it more and more. Originally, I was going to give it 3 stars, but now I'm thinking I'll rate it around 1.5 to 2 stars. My biggest problem with this manga is the amount of sexual harassment included. I don't know why there was so much of it. Kagetora is constantly stealing or attempting to steal kisses, even though Tamaki begs him to stop. She literally cries for him to stop. He's always touching her legs and makes her wear a skimpy uniform, even though it's uncomfortable and impedes Tamaki's ability to do her job, which to Tamaki is really important because she really wants to excel at this. Random things happen throughout the story without rhyme or reason, and overall it felt rushed. I wasn't able to connect to the characters in any meaningful way. Even when Tamaki is unraveling her incredibly tragic and heartbreaking backstory, I felt sad for her, but I wasn't emotional. And that was super weird for me because I'm a crier, and this didn't make me feel anything. Also, the big reveal of why Kagetora actually wanted to hire Tamaki was disappointing, and it was also random. My favorite part of this whole manga was the supporting characters, actually. Mikimoto, he's Kagetora's professional and highly skilled bodyguard. He's what made this manga funny for me. I loved his little snarky comments and strict personality, which is the polar opposite of Kagetora, who is a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. Besides Mikimoto, I also loved Tamaki's teenage brother. He's smart and mature for his age, and despite teasing his sister, you can tell he really loves Tamaki and he has her back. Also, he's an otaku, so he gets bonus points for that. As for the art, I love it, but the characters look eerily similar to the characters in Enjoji Sensei's other series, Happy Marriage. Still, the art is very neat, clean, and expressive. Enjoji Sensei is upfront with the fact that while writing the first volume of SP Baby, she found out she was pregnant and she was struggling with morning sickness. She completed the second volume after her maternity leave, and it makes me wonder if her personal life affected how this story was written. Maybe she wanted to tell it differently. I just have this feeling that originally this series was supposed to be longer, but there's no way to tell for sure. Overall, this series gets 2 stars from me. The next manga I'm going to mention is one that kind of snuck its way in here. I actually read it right at the tail end of April, and that is volume 1 of Mint Chocolate by Mami Orikasa. This manga is published by Yen Press. It's rated 13+, and it's a fairly new series. The second volume was just released this month. This shoujo manga follows Nanami, a high school girl that has a crush on one of her classmates, Kyohei. He's incredibly attractive, but completely unapproachable and cold. Nanami wants to get close to him, but living under the same roof as step-siblings wasn't what she had in mind. First off, I'll say that I actually really enjoyed this first volume, and I felt like it was a great opening to the story and to the characters. It's playful, and it has a bunch of really adorable moments. Besides, it's a forbidden love taboo romance. Your heart can't help but race when these characters are doing something naughty. I really loved the characters, especially Kyohei. You can tell he's really struggling with his feelings for Nanami, and even though he tries his best to hide them, they keep bubbling up. For example, he gets jealous of another boy spending time with Nanami, or when Nanami can't decide between 2 flavors of ice cream, he buys them both and shares them with her. It's just too cute. Also, I really love the art in the series. It's really well done. There is one little tiny thing that frustrated me, but believe me when I say that it's a tiny frustration, because I really did love this volume. It's obvious to the readers and to both main characters that they have feelings for each other. However, every time Nanami tries to reach out to Kyohei, he pulls away or he teases her, and that part doesn't bother me. What I didn't like is that these interactions cause a lot of squabbling between both Nanami and Kyohei, and it gets annoying. It kind of ruins those swoon-worthy moments for me. If there was less comedic bickering and back and forth between the leads, I would have probably given this manga a 5-star. However, the series still has lots of potential. This is only the first volume of the series. All in all, this gets a solid 4 stars from me. So there are 3 series left that I need to talk about, and believe it or not, they are all 5-star manga for me. And what's really neato is that these manga are all different genres, and I love them all for very different reasons. How lucky am I that I got to read so many amazing manga this month? I'm so happy. So the first series that I'm going to talk about is the first 5 volumes of the Josei series, Something's Wrong with Us by Natsumi Ando. This manga is published by Kodansha Comics and it's rated 16+. I'm going to read the synopsis on Right Stuff because I feel like it gives you a little insight without ruining the mystery.
Mayo has followed in her mother's footsteps to become a traditional Japanese sweets maker. Even at 21, her skills are unparalleled, landing her a spot at a world-class confectionery company. However, when she meets the young, handsome heir to the company, she recognizes Tsubaki, her first friend, and the same boy who framed her mother for murder over a decade ago. As the only witness to the crime, Mayo seizes her chance to get close to him, but instead of finding answers, she falls deeper for Tsubaki's allure.
I absolutely loved this manga series, and it's a real page turner. I was up until 3:30 in the morning because I couldn't put this down. The art is gorgeous, and a lot of the panels are dedicated to showing the characters' actions and emotions, so it's a super quick read as far as manga goes. I appreciate that it kind of chucks you straight into the chaos and the drama. There is never a dull moment with this. I've really been enjoying the characters in these volumes, and the villain is someone you love to hate. There are multiple villainous characters, but the proprietress,
Proprietress.
is by far the worst of the worst. Murder, mystery, and revenge aside, this manga does a wonderful job of teaching the audience about Japanese culture, specifically surrounding Japanese wagashi, which are traditional Japanese sweets that are typically enjoyed with tea. It was fascinating learning how they are made, and I loved seeing all the different decorations and styles of wagashi. I appreciate that Ando sensei includes descriptions and pictures of the confections in the translation notes, so you can look up and understand what everything is. In conclusion, this series is suspenseful and thrilling, which makes it very entertaining to read. I am so pumped for the next installment of this series, especially since it ended on a really crazy cliffhanger. Volume 6 comes out May 18th, and I've already pre-ordered it. Yay! The second 5-star manga that I read this month were volumes 2 through 11 of the shoujo series Kiss Me at the Stroke of Midnight by Rin Mikimoto. Published by Kodansha Comics, this is an age gap romantic comedy and it's rated 16+. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I've talked about this series quite a bit on my channel. Before grabbing volume 2, I was already in love with this series and I had high expectations moving forward. This manga exceeded all expectations. The physical heart fluttering I experienced while reading this. This manga is about 17-year-old honor student Hinana, who lives a very structured life and is exceptionally hardworking in both her home and school life. Secretly though, Hinana dreams of being whisked away by a fairy tale prince like in the story of Cinderella. After Hinana meets the popular idol Kaede, the two grow close and realize that they can be themselves around each other, quirks and all. This series is one of the cutest things I have ever read. It had me kicking my feet and squeeing like I was a 14-year-old girl. Hinana and Kaede are the sweetest, most lovable soulmates. They are so adorable together. Now I realize that people might have qualms supporting this couple because there is an 8-year age gap between them, but I feel like Mikimoto sensei did a beautiful job writing this romance. In volume 1, Kaede sort of comes off as this perverted creep, and hey, if you read volume 1 and couldn't get behind the rest of the series, I get it. I really do, you know? But after reading all 11 volumes, I can say that Mikimoto sensei wrote Kaede as a sweet, kind guy who is truly devoted to Hinana and cares for her deeply. And he is so charming. Like, I was falling in love with him because of how charming he was. Like, I'm in love with him. I was actually really surprised at how physical things get between the main characters.
Hey guys, Editor Sammy here. I just thought that I needed to clarify what I said here. When I say that the characters are physical with each other, I'm not talking about sex. I just felt like I needed to say it because I feel like this part makes it sound like the characters do a lot of like dirty things. But yeah. There's no fade to blacks, there's no softcore, hardcore moments. The characters just get a little intimate. Yeah, okay, see you guys!
But it was actually kind of refreshing. Hinana is kind of a closet pervert and is interested in the physical sides of her relationship with Kaede, but there are still boundaries, and those boundaries are respected by both parties, and they communicate with each other. If Hinana is too overwhelmed, she voices her concern and boom, the line is drawn. I love consent. Even though the romance between the leads is a central part of the manga, it is chocked full of meaningful stories, character development, drama, and comedy. The art is gorgeous, it's expressive, and fluffy, like literally fluffy. I couldn't stop thinking about how Hinata's hair reminds me of Lady's ears from Lady and the Tramp. I wasn't a huge fan of Mikimoto sensei's chibi characters in earlier volumes, but they really grew on me and they became a huge part of the comedy in these books. Now that I've read most of the series, I'm confident in saying that it's in my top 10 favorite manga of all time. I am so freaking sad that I have to wait 9 months for the final volume. Kodansha, why? 9 months! Now, this last part of my write-up might have a different tone compared to the rest of this video, and that's because a lot of my thoughts on this series were originally part of a formal deep dive review I was writing, but I've decided to put my reviews on hold for the time being. They take me a lot of effort and time to write, and I just don't have the time right now.
Hey, editor Sammy here again. I guess I just wanted to say that I really do enjoy writing the manga reviews. And I'm not stopping because I don't enjoy it anymore. It's just that I'm having to choose between releasing one video a week or making manga reviews. I can't keep up with both. So I'm just putting it on hold. When I have more time, I will revisit writing them again. But yeah, I just thought that I would add a little bit more info to that. Anyway, guys, bye.
I do write first impressions and manga review blurbs on my Instagram. So if you're interested in seeing more of my thoughts on manga, you can always follow me there. Besides, I've noticed that these monthly wrap-ups are kind of the equivalent to mini reviews. Anyways, on to the next manga. The last 5-star series I'm going to be talking about is volumes 1 through 5 of the omnibus editions of After the Rain by Jun Mayuzuki. This is a seinen manga series. It's published by Vertical and it's rated 14+. When I first hauled these, I labeled them as being an age gap romance, but now that I've read them, I don't think that that accurately describes the series at all. After the Rain is about 17-year-old Akira Tachibana, who was the star of her high school track and field team, but she was forced to quit after sustaining an ankle injury. After stumbling into a restaurant one rainy day, Akira briefly meets the manager and decides to get a part-time job at the same establishment so that she can learn more about her now new boss, Masumi Kendo. Masumi is an unkept, bumbling 45-year-old divorcee with a young son named Yuto. He is kind-hearted, but he's exceedingly polite and is often criticized by his employees for being overly apologetic and weak. However, Akira admires those qualities, and Masumi's genuine and caring nature drowns out any reservations, including the substantial age gap between them. Akira finds comfort in his presence, and with each passing day, she becomes more committed to telling Masumi how she feels. At first glance, After the Rain is a taboo romance series about a 17-year-old girl falling for a 45-year-old manager. No doubt, this manga has probably lost readers from the synopsis alone, and I can understand why. The age difference between the main leads is pretty significant, and there's a boss-employee power dynamic. I can see people being grossed out and uncomfortable with a romance story surrounding these characters. And that's why I was so intrigued by this story. How does a story about a 28-year age gap romance, with a minor nonetheless, become so successful, or at least successful enough to win the 63rd Shugakukan Manga Award and have an anime and a live-action movie adaptation. Something didn't add up. And when I bought this series, I predicted there was going to be some sort of complexity to the narrative, or perhaps a twist of some sort. And let me just say that I was not ready for the emotional roller coaster that is this manga series. What I found so refreshing is that Akira actually reveals her feelings to Masumi very early on in the story, versus slowly building towards a love confession. Masumi is so dumbfounded by her confession that he thinks it has to be a practical joke. He feels like there is zero appeal to him, and of course the age gap is obviously a huge factor. But he soon realizes Akira is serious about her feelings, and his softy attitude and politeness land him an accidental date with Akira. And this gives readers the impression that this story's primary focus is on this complicated and awkward relationship. I feel like the romance aspects in this series are there to provide the setup for what this story is really supposed to be about, which isn't some sexual fantasy, but rather a story following two people whose dreams are in stagnancy. Akira was a track superstar, and she was robbed of her greatest joy and was forced to retire after her injury. She refuses to admit that she misses running and faces the consequences of leaving track and field, including the strain it puts on her relationship with her best friend, who is captain of the team. Masumi is a middle-aged man who is the result of a failed passion. He has slowly drifted away from his dream of being a writer after years of being in the same dead-end job. These characters have both lost something integral to themselves and are facing a crossroads. This series studies how these two unlikely people find a connection in similar despair and help each other in unexpected ways. Sure, there are pieces of romance here and there. Akira's feelings are undeniable, but the real message of this story is about seeking solace in escapism, missing out on youth, and living life without regrets. Some other things I just want to touch on briefly are that the narrative and the characters in After the Rain are super realistic. Both Akira and Masumi are well-developed, multi-dimensional protagonists who feel as if they could be real people that exist in the world. The story is actually pretty funny at times, and I loved most of the supporting characters and their side stories. The only issue I have with this series is that the supporting characters don't really get endings to their storylines. They just come to a halt and they felt unfinished to me, but I think that was a purposeful decision made by Mayuzuki sensei. Maybe one day we'll get another volume to tie all those loose ends, or maybe we just have to finish those stories on our own. I don't like doing that, by the way. I very much like closure. I am in love with Mayuzuki sensei's art style. It is so beautiful, and it's reminiscent of art styles in older shoujo manga like Sailor Moon. All the characters look very unique, and it's easy to tell everyone apart. The volumes are quick and easy to read, mostly because there are a lot of moments that are shown to readers versus explained. Sometimes there isn't any speaking or thinking out loud from the characters, but something really important and crucial to the story is being communicated through the visuals. Also, I loved the colored illustrations in these volumes. They are so pretty. The ending of the series was particularly emotional for me. I was in tears for most of the last volume, and my husband had to console me after, because I just really needed a hug after reading this series. It's satisfying, but poignant.
Poignant.
And I'm thankful that the conclusion didn't make me dislike any of the characters. I feel like this story will resonate differently for people and in different ways depending on where people are in their lives. If I were to read this series in 20 years, it might hit me in a completely different way. This melancholic, bittersweet story is one of the best series I have ever had the pleasure of reading. It's really good. And with that, we have come to the end of my manga wrap-up for April. Have you read any of these manga? I would love to know what you thought of them in the comment section below. If you're interested in watching more videos from me, you can check out my end card where I'll have links to my most recent videos. I hope you all have a manga-nificent day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!